We're back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Port of Beans podcast. My name is Afro Wendy. And as always, I am so thrilled to be here with you again. It's been a while, but I'm really glad that I'm here with you. Well, like always, today I have a really amazing show for you. I have a guest, and my guest will be here to talk about his book. Yes. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, help me welcome Biodun Abudu. Hey, Biodun,
Hello.
how are you
Hi.
doing?
How,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm really good. I'm very excited that we are able to do this. I know it's been a long time coming. It's what, since January we've been planning this?
Yeah, since January, like a lot of back, we've been going back and forth, and then you're traveling, I'm traveling, so it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm really happy that we are able to do this finally. And we are here to talk about your book, of course. But before we dive into your book, tell us about yourself. Tell us about what you do, how you describe yourself, so people can get to know you.
I'm a very chill person. I was born in Rhode Island, grew up in Nigeria, so I did my high school, kindergarten in Nigeria, and Pampas Private School, Rainbow College in Lagos. And then after that, I came to the US. So I keep moving around, I like to say. So I did go to London for maybe like 6 months, lived there. London wasn't given, sorry, no offense to anyone. But then I was like, okay, let me go to the US. I like a little bit of crazy. So I went to the US, started in Chicago. I was in Chicago, did my college there, learned a lot of life experiences in Chicago. And then I moved to New York, where I'm still currently living. And right now, I majorly do my writings, write some books on different topics. I have like an online boutique as well that I manage myself. So I do pop-up shops here and there. It's just strictly accessories for men and women. And more recently, I started a card drinking game called Secrets and Shots. So, yeah, I've been pushing that, doing a lot of marketing on that. Trying to just generally get people to talk, get people to have fun. When COVID happened, a lot of ideas were running through my mind, and wanted to do things that people can connect back again. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited that you wear many hats. I've not quite a few people, but very few, of course, that do so much. But what is the motivation for you for wearing these various hats, and then also what is the motivation for you to be an author or a writer?
I would say the motivation, honestly, concerning being an author, it's like it started as a diary for me. Like, you write things down, like your frustrations, things you would like to change, things that you're putting down as manifestations that you want to accomplish, things of that nature. So it started as a diary first, and then it started to transition to, oh, I would like to write this because someone else might be going through this. Especially back then when I used to chat on Yahoo Messenger or MySpace, you would chat with people you don't know, and then you get to learn that you have the same challenges. And then I was like, I should release this diary in a book format. And you just never know who's going to read it. And they may need to see that they're not the only one and they can get through something. So that's what motivated me to be an author. So I started to write different topics, different things that I went through or that other people around me went through. And as far as the other things, I love accessories. I love a good accessory. Every time I'm going out, I love a good clutch. I love a good hat, chain, whatever it is. So I was like, and people would ask me, when you sit down at that dinner table, when you go to that brunch, people, where did you get that? Where did you get that? So I'm like, you know what? Let me start a boutique where I'm just showcasing all of this. So when you guys ask now, I can just be like, it's on my shop, go get it.
Mhm.
As far as a drinking game, we like to have fun. We like to, especially when we go to like game nights or we go to like just house parties. I
Mhm.
wanted to create something that was a little bit more daring than the normal games out there. So I created Secrets and Shots. It's a fun game, drinking games, more on the sensual side, but it's just asking questions and things that people don't necessarily talk about, but you
Mhm.
get to know your friends through the game.
Okay, well, that sounds like fun. That definitely sounds like fun. One of the things that you said struck me is the fact that you've lived in several regions of the world. Did you say you were born in Nigeria?
No, I was born in Rhode Island here, but raised in
Born,
Nigeria.
yeah, born in Rhode Island, grew up in Nigeria, you lived in London as well, you're living in New York now. So tell me about how much your experience with, living in these regions, how much that influenced, the writing of your book, or actually, or even your journey as a writer.
Each place I stayed at definitely played a huge role in my life, especially Nigeria and Chicago. To highlight Nigeria for sure, because I was in a boarding school, so you
Oh.
learn that in the independent part of you, you learn to be independent.
Mhm.
So away from your parents, away from just easily walking to your mom or dad's room to knock on the door and asking for this, you had to figure it out in the boarding house. You had to figure it out, from waking up, and everything is like a routine in the boarding house, from waking up, eating, going to classes, doing your homework yourself, and connecting with different personalities within that boarding house. All of that was what helped shaped me.
Mhm.
So even when I left Nigeria and I was able to learn all those different things, going to a place like Chicago, I was able to live alone quite fine. A lot of my family members were worried. I'm like, I just left the boarding house. Like, I was good, and I was not trying to come home and see y'all because I needed a break from y'all anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, going to Chicago, living on my own, I was fine. Like, the only thing that was a challenge was, like, of course, paying the bills and working and trying to maneuver those different schedules. But and even in Chicago, I learned a lot more as an adult, because Chicago, you're dealing with jobs, working at jobs, the different personalities, things that people are doing that's not necessarily meeting the core values of the company. And then you're dealing with an actual landlord now, because you're actually paying rent. You're dealing with relationships now. You're dealing with just so much as an adult. And Chicago was quite very interesting, for better words. But even through the negatives, I was able to really withstand and be strong and make great friendships that I still have a lot of good friends that I still speak to.
Mhm.
And a lot of things that you see, whether you people that you started with, and they're not necessarily like in the best place right now, you get to see all of that. And you thank God for life when you see those negative sides of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm really glad to hear that, your lived experiences basically shaped the writing of your book and, your journey as a writer as well. Now, the name of your book is Notes to Self, A Human's Journey. I think that's an interesting title for a book. What motivated that title?
I online I keep seeing people write notes to self, and these are things that they're it's like looking in the mirror, sort of like you're looking in the mirror, you're talking to yourself, you're so when we talk about notes to self, it's like those little sticky notes that you put down of things that you would like to accomplish, things like you like to work on, whether it's I want to work on anger, I want to work on calling my mom more, whatever it is.
Mhm.
So it's like different notes to myself, but now I'm putting in a book form for other people to relate, because we all have things that we can relate to, or things that I've heard, whether it's my mom or friends or people I've met online, things that they've shared with me. These are things that I'm presenting in the book. So, Notes to Self, A Human's Journey. And the reason why I added that, A Human's Journey, is we all, sometimes we're judgmental. We can sit on the computer screen and judge someone else from what we've read, but we don't know backstories. We don't know how we would react if we were in that person's shoes. So I put A Human's Journey, like it's all for us to learn. It's a learning experience together. It's all for us to heal together. So we're all humans and we're all on this journey without a precise guideline, because even if when people give us rules or guidelines, parents, we sometimes go astray from that, and we're just learning and we're trying to figure it out. So it's a journey.
It is a journey. Life's a journey. We are all on, well, not the same journey, but we are on a journey.
Yes.
Okay, so in your book, you touched on, several themes, if I would call them that. You talked about self-care, you talked about self-worth, you talked about mental health, failure, relationships, all of those good stuff. And but I want to start with the theme, if that's what you will call it, the theme of self-worth. First of all, what does it mean to you, and how do you approach it in your book? What notes have you written on self-worth?
On self-worth, I started from individually, and I also touched a little bit on relationship. Let me start with individually. When we go through life, we're hard on ourselves. We
Mhm.
jump on social media, and I do that myself. And a few of my friends have also shared their experience with me, especially. So I'm just going to talk from my angle is I get online, and not to say you don't wish people well, you're happy for them. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes you sit back and like, oh, I should have been there too, or I should have been doing this too, or I should have bought the house already by this year. You start to be hard on yourself. And then that's when I had to remember that that person's journey or timeline is different from mine. And it doesn't mean it's over. It's
Mhm.
over when you decide to stop. So, these are the things I started to write down and I read to myself constantly as a reminder that it's okay to not be at that point where you think you should be. It's all about getting the right tools, asking questions. That person that achieved it, reach out to them like, hey, I know you did this and you did that. Can you help me? Reaching out, not being hard on yourself, and still having the many and researching the many tools to get you to that point. And it's okay if it's taking longer. That's another thing that I had to keep telling myself. And
Mhm.
then when it came to relationships, that one relationship didn't go well, and then you're hard on yourself. You're like, oh, I'll never date again, I'm done, this and that. But that in itself, it shouldn't be the end. I had to prep myself like it shouldn't be the end. This one person doesn't represent everyone in the world.
True.
There are so many people you will meet that will be beautiful, and you'll find that one person. And another thing I had to tell myself is healing is a personal journey. Now, this person can heal in 1 week and be good, but it's okay for me to take months to heal
Mhm.
because healing doesn't have a timestamp. That's what I had to learn. Healing doesn't have a timestamp. So it's okay to take your time to heal in the way that works for you, even if you have to travel, maybe switch off the phone for this week, whatever works for you, get off social media. That's what you use to heal.
Okay. Yeah, that's really important. Healing is important because, again, if you're not healed, the chances of you hurting another person is really high. But regarding self-worth now, what is one thing you've noticed? I know you talked about social media and how we compare ourselves to others, but how do you think, aside social media, what are other ways in which people lose their self-worth, if I should put it that way? What are other ways in which people lose their self-worth, and what are the consequences of that, of losing your self-worth?
I would say losing your self worth. Could another example I could give or that I've seen is sometimes we're invited to places and maybe everyone on that table that you're meeting for the first time, because it may just be that one friend that you know already, but you don't know the rest of the six people on the table, and they may all be, I don't know, doctors or very accomplished where they are right now, and sometimes you feel a little intimidated. So then you start to doubt yourself. You start to hurt yourself mentally, like, oh, I need to get off this table. I need to find a way to exit. You start to, and it goes back to all the things that you are feeling like you should have accomplished. So now you're out physically in the sight of different, in the presence of different people. And now you're attacking your self worth. You're attacking what you've built so far.
Mhm.
You start to be harsh on yourself. And now you want to exit. You want to start to feel nervous. You want to start to feel like you don't feel among. But and one thing I had to learn is when you're on that table, regardless of where everyone else is at, there's something that brought you to that table. There's something that they see in you that's inspiring them. And it doesn't always have to be like money or status. It's just, it could be your confidence, how you walked into the room, how you owned the room, how you introduced yourself. They may be thinking these next two people walked in, didn't even say hello, hi, how are you, nothing. But the fact that you said that, they just respect you for. So it's, you have to really commend yourself. You have to really pat yourself on the back of everything you've accomplished so far. And with self-worth, you always, it's like a constant thing, a constant reminder. And sometimes we fall short. That's why the company of being in great people is very important, because those people will remind you, your family members will remind you that of what you've been doing so far, what you're doing that's great, and what they love about you, what they admire about you. And that constantly dust off any dust that's on that self-worth that you've built for yourself over the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And I like that you brought the, to friends as well, because I think that is very important, in trying to, build your self-worth, or, build your self-image. Family, friends, people that, can speak life into you. That's very, very important. I want to touch a bit on self-care, okay? Because that's another theme that, emerges from your book. And, these days, and I see it on social media all the time, people refer to self-care as, having your nails done if you're a girl, or, you just having bubble baths and all of those fancy things. And then they said, oh, that's self-care. But is self-care all of that, or is there more to self-care?
Well, self-care could be that, definitely, and more. And self-care is is your own interpretation. Some people take it a step further. Self-care could be traveling, getting away from other people, having that isolation to really regroup. Because believe it or not, there's a few of us, including myself, we need to recharge. We're in the company of people at work, we're in company of people, where whatever the social events we've been going to, and we need time to recharge. So self-care could be you being in that house, maybe switching off the phone, maybe watching these TV shows that gets your mindset out of your reality.
Mm.
The reality of your bills, the reality of whether a person's a mother, they have 4 kids, 5 kids, just taking care of you, putting you first, pampering you, whether it's through the nails, through the traveling, through things that just take you like a mental escape. I like to call it a mental escape, where
Mhm.
you're taking yourself out of that element of your reality and just really indulging in things that you enjoy in that moment. So then when you have that moment to yourself, you come back re-energized, ready to hit the pavement and get things done again.
Okay, well, that's really, really important. Your book also mentions, some form of self-care, which is, people trying to be kinder to themselves. What are some ways in which people can, be kinder to themselves? How can they practice that as a form of self-care?
Definitely look into the mirror is one of the things I learned. I think that's the one of the easiest things you can do is definitely look into the mirror, talking to that person you see in the mirror, and giving them some words of affirmation, telling yourself kind words, building your confidence. It's also notes, as we say, the sticky notes, writing things, putting on your fridge, so that every time you open that fridge, you're seeing positive words. Recording yourself, recording podcasts like this, listening to it, and hearing the words and really understanding the words and living through those words to be kinder to yourself. So many, you can step out the house, and especially with New York, you can step out the house and someone could be mean to you. You could say good morning and they're like, oh, F off. Like, they're having a bad day. And that could just really set the tone for the day. But when you have those words of encouragement behind the closed doors before you step out to the world, and you're kind to yourself, so many things won't be able to attack what you've already put over yourself to shield yourself from the house. So those are the ways I could say you could definitely be kind to yourself for sure.
Okay. Let me paint a scenario here. Let's assume, I have had a terrible day, like from the start to the finish. I think that most of it is my fault. What I would say, I've messed up. Okay. Like, I've done really terrible things, or I think I've done, or I perceive myself as having done terrible things, and things that are not very smart, are not very, like me. And, I come and I tell myself, oh my God, you're stupid. You're this, you're dull, you're not smart enough, you're not, all of those negative things. How would you, using maybe your own experience, how would you talk someone like that, through saying, being kind to yourself? Is it just the words? Is it just saying be kind to yourself? Or is there something that can be done, to tell that person, or to show that person how they can be kinder to themselves?
Definitely. So I mean, that happens with me, and it happens with friends. And the ways that I go about it, because I had to learn myself, is words are powerful. It's great for that person to know
Mhm.
that the words that you speak are powerful. So resist the temptation to just blurt out that frustration. You resist the temptation because the words that you put out there are very powerful. Now, we go back to the podcast and other things, but another thing that I should add is, I feel like we all have, and I have myself, we all have that one friend that is very positive, or everyone goes through their moments, but you have that one friend that when you're in that zone, that frustration, you're upset, they can get you back on track. And some people, that's a therapist for them, and that's fine as well.
Mhm.
But for me, I have that one friend, or two friends, or three friends actually, that I can easily call, that can be like, no, don't say that about yourself. You have done this, you have done that. Remember when you helped me, remember when you helped this person. You're capable. Now, because it's not happening now for you doesn't mean it's over. What is your plan B? What is your plan C? Let's brainstorm. Let's get you back on track. Because
Mhm.
sometimes you're not strong. Sometimes if we feel that we're not strong enough to really give ourselves that self encouragement, it's okay to reach out to a friend, because we're not perfect. And there's been times where I've fallen short of that. That I can't really speak words to myself. I'm not feeling that strong. I can't get it together. I have to call a friend to do that for me, to get me back on track, and that's okay. Um, but if you're someone that's really strong, especially in that moment, those words, breathe in, breathe out. I know recently there was a time I had a moment at my day job, and I had to go in the bathroom to like breathe in, breathe out, talk to myself. Those are things that I do, and I know sometimes people can relate to that. I do that. Go to the bathroom, speak to myself, look in the mirror, like breathe in, breathe out. Whatever this person said, they may be having a bad day. Don't let it get to you. Okay, let me go back outside. Let me get back to that meeting. Let me continue from where I left off. So those are the different things I do, and I think it's powerful.
Okay, I really like that, because yeah, I agree with you. Words are really powerful, and I
Mhm.
also think, we shouldn't internalize, some words, especially words that others say to us. It's not nice to, take somebody else's words to be your truth. I think that is really important. And thank you for showing us that. Now, I want to talk about, mental health, and setting boundaries and all of that. These days we always talk about maintaining your inner peace, maintaining your mental health, your sanity, all of those things. And taking care of your mental health is a really, really important aspect that people very hammer on these days. Now, how do you, or what do you tell somebody that has, set boundaries for themselves, in order to maintain their mental health, or to protect their mental health? However, they're feeling guilty about it, because sometimes people say, I cut this person off for my
Mhm.
mental health, right? But then there's always that guilt. So what do you tell somebody with that kind of guilt?
I honestly have personal experiences, and I love to share my personal experience because I don't mind. I know sometimes my family members might be like, "Oh, why did you say that?" But honestly, because I've lived through it, I always use my example. I used to watch things on TV where you see people. I'm going to give you an example where people complain about their stress as a caregiver, and I never understood it till I was in that place. And people will try to tell you how you should be a caregiver when your mental capacity can only handle so much.
Mm,
And I tell people, when you're in that space, you come first and it's okay. You don't have to apologize for choosing you in that moment. People can't tell you how to care for someone because they don't have backstories, they're not involved in what's going on. And the guilt is a thing, because I felt like that for sure. Like, oh my God, I haven't spoken to this person because they did this. But the thing is, unfortunately, and a lot of people will disagree, but it's okay to cut people off if they are not respecting that. When you get on the phone with me, I don't need you calling me a bastard. I don't need you calling me you're useless. I don't need you putting curse words into my life. If you're not going to stop doing that when you get on the phone with me, maybe we should put this on a pause, or maybe this is not going to work out, and it's okay, especially if the person's not willing to change. When you start to guilt yourself, you start to teach people that it's okay to continue doing those things that you consider disrespectful. If you've given them many opportunities to change who they are, to really respect you when they get on the phone with you or when they're in your presence, and they're not doing that, it's letting you know that they don't respect you, and it's okay to cut them off. Because you cutting them off is letting them know that I am not going to stand for this. When you start to guilt yourself and you reinvite those people then could lead you into your destruction, where they're constantly attacking you, you flip out, and now you damage something that should have never been touched. So it's okay to cut people off. It really is okay.
yeah, I definitely agree. Because sometimes you cut people off, and it's the- um yeah, you cut people off, they kind of make you feel guilty about it, but you have to remind yourself, like, it's very much okay. It's for a greater good, which is my mental health. I definitely agree with that. Now let's talk about what you wrote about failure.
Mhm.
Now, tell me how much of that is and I know you did say, these are your personal experiences that you put, in or on a note and then convert them to book. But tell me about what prompted you to write about failure.
Failure comes to, with me, failure is like so many aspects. It's the relationship, it's failure of how you should have guided your younger one, friends, it's so many things, a job, it's so many things. And for example, I'll give you an example. Like, sometimes you apply to a job, you really want it, and then they don't select you, and then, you're crying, you're like, oh my God, and you start to feel like it's over, it's over, it's over. But you have to take a step back and be like, no, you got to keep it going.
Hmm.
You don't know if that thing that you really wanted, you don't know if it was meant for you, because you can get in there and it's total chaos in there. So those are the things I keep reminding myself, that it's okay. Through failure, we learn.
Yeah.
With every failure, there's a lesson learned in there. Whether it's a relationship that failed, what did I do wrong? Because you have to self-acknowledge what you did wrong, and also what the person did wrong. So when you go into your next relationship, you do things better. Failure could be, maybe your sibling told you how you've hurt them on several times, and then you have to take a seat back and, like, okay, what can I do to be different? It's a lesson learned with every kind of failure, and it's okay to fail. What is not okay is when you stop. You have to keep it going.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And you touched on, although you didn't explicitly call it that, you touched on accountability, right? You said, it's very important to reassess and self-assess and say, what did I do wrong and how can I improve that, going forward. Now tell me though, why are people afraid of failure? Do you think that it has to do with people's perceptions of them, or do you think it has to do with their own perception of them, as because there's a negative connotation when it comes to, like, the word failure. People say it, well, people don't say, but it's perceived as a negative thing. So why do you think people are afraid of failure?
You know, I'm going to use, and on top of my head, I just think of Nigeria, for example, in our culture where, you know, people feel like that one time is the only time they have to really prove themselves, and it's not true. There are gonna be other times you can prove yourself, and it also comes from the pressure of family. For example, this has to work because my family is expecting me to have a child by this time. This has to work because my mom's best friend's son is now married, and now I have to be married too. So I need to get this relationship right. And the thing is, I understand when people feel like that, but the thing now is people have to realize that's not your only opportunity. There will be several opportunities for you to get things right. And sometimes it works on the first time, and that's amazing. But if
Okay.
it doesn't work, it's okay. This is why you regroup, you figure out what went wrong, and you try again.
Yes.
Um, it's just so much pressure. It's so many things that you're seeing around you, how people are succeeding. So when you don't get it right, you start to feel like people will laugh at you, people will judge you, people will feel like you're not smart, people
Mm.
start to feel like, oh, why should I have you around me? You're not, you never get things right. And that's understandable. But if those people are always judgmental around you, then maybe they're not supposed to be around you.
Ooh, that one is really touchy. But then, let me talk about family, okay? Like with family now, it's hard,
Mhm.
to distance yourself from family because you say, well, if they are, feeling this sort of way about you, then they don't need to be around you. But it's family. How
It's
do you
yes,
do
it's family, but sorry to jump in. It's family, yes. So we can't cut our family. Family is different, but we start to put those boundaries where it's I reduce what I'm sharing with you because I don't want that negative energy coming to me every time I share with you that, hey, this happened to me. I'm expecting you to give me words of encouragement. But if
Mm,
you're not giving that to me, now I have to put those boundaries, not necessarily cut them off because it's family. The family got to give them several opportunities to get it right.
right?
But you lessen what you share with them, unfortunately, because you know how this person is. They may never change, so you have to lessen the bad news that you get that you share with them. God forbid if it's a miscarriage, maybe you don't want to share that with them, or if they eventually find out, you can be like, well, I didn't tell you because every time I tell you something, this is how you respond, and then maybe they can think, oh, I need to get it together.
Ah,
So that's
yeah.
what that's something I wanted to say. Yeah.
Mhm. No, I definitely agree because again, it's not cutting them off; it's just cutting the information that you give them. Don't give them everything so they don't end up making you feel really terrible. That's really important, and thank you for sharing that. Just going off of that, and again, relationship is an integral part of the human experience, whether it's familial relationship, romantic relationship, whatever kind of relationship is really integral to our lives. What do you think though, with the different, because there are different messages about relationships, but what do you think is the misconception that people have about relationships? Let's start with romantic relationships and then we can even talk about familiar relationships.
Romantic, I'll be honest, I'm still trying to get it together. I'm still trying to get it together.
Yeah,
But what I am learning and I'm standing firm on is when you don't lose yourself when you get into a relationship, for
yeah.
sure. Don't
Right.
lose yourself, and the words that people speak to you is very important. You should not be in a relationship where someone is bashing you in public. Oh, this is why you're so stupid. I can't believe I'm with you. Then
Oh.
don't be with me. You
Mhm.
know, those things are very important. And another thing that I personally am really working on seriously is the red flags in the beginning.
Cool.
It's they're there, and sometimes we ignore it. We're thinking because it's me, I'm
Mhm.
going to suddenly change this person. Let me give them an opportunity. They're going to change with me. It's not true. Look at their many encounters.
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship, when within the first 2 weeks, they're hiding a call, or maybe not the first 2 weeks, or the first few months, I should say,
Yeah.
they're hiding calls from you, they're being secretive. Those are your signs right there. And we often ignore it, even including myself. We often ignore it thinking, oh, it's nothing. They're going to change. Oh, I
Yeah.
heard that they did this to this person. It's going to change with me. But some of the red flags are right there, and you need to pay attention to them, and also assess yourself like, all these relationships that haven't worked for me and I'm still single, what is the common denominator? Like what is the common thing that I'm not working on or getting together? So
Mm,
yeah.
mm. That is really something to think about. And you did talk about red flags, and I just want to touch on the topic of red flags for a bit. What
Mhm.
do you think, based on your experience, what do you think is a red flag that people should like really look into, but it's been normalized, you know?
Listen, number one that I can think of, well, two. Let me use two.
Okay.
When you go on a dating app that is 90% for sex, I you should not be surprised if that's all the person is focusing on when you're trying to establish something real with them. You should not be surprised. That's where you met them. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it is what it is. And if people are telling, if you act straight up, if you tell someone that you're dating with intentions, you're already telling what you want. I'm dating for intentions. I want to get married. I want a kid. And you ask them what they're looking for, and they're hesitant. They're like, "Oh, I'm just going with the flow. I'm not really. I just want to see how things go." It's right there. They've told you they're not ready for commitments, because
Right.
someone that is interested will automatically, oh, this is what I'm looking for too. We're on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
But people start to feel like, oh, maybe he'll want something different in a week or two when I
Right.
charm him or her. No, trust and believe nothing's gonna change.
Wow. Yeah, that is really something to think about. I find it really fascinating that going with the flow has been so normalized. 'Cause I think it's a red flag too. I think especially because people are looking for different things,
Mhm,
and if you know that you are looking for something more, why
mhm.
settle with just going with the flow, a situationship, for example, when you want something more. And I think that is a red flag that people overlook, and just end up being hurt at the end of the day. And I certainly agree with you. Now let's talk
And
about familial relationship for a minute now. I do know, because those are relationships too. What do you think are the misconceptions about familial relationships?
well, those are like Um, I when it comes to relationships in general, I tell people, and I don't try to act like I know. I'm learning it all.
Yeah.
So honestly, we see situations where people they're used to what's for example, they're okay to people not treating you as someone important or treating you as someone that's relevant to their life. They're okay with secondhand invites, a passenger number two. So people are okay with that. So when they are in this kind of relationships, they're like, oh, because I don't want to be alone, because I don't want to feel like I'm lonely and I don't have someone to speak to, I'm just gonna maintain this while I look for something that's treating me better or that's accepting me. And it's wrong. It's honestly wrong, because the thing is, that person starts to deposit abuse into you, deposits you not feeling your self-worth. They're just depositing things that's just making you feel not as important. And that is what you now take into the next relationship with you. And
Hmm.
people don't realize that we often settle with what is around us, in front of us, because we don't have other things around that will take really occupy our time at that moment. So yeah, that's something that I think of or I've seen. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing.
Mhm.
Now, although we touched on this, but I would like to get your opinion about
Mm.
how people can navigate relationships that don't align with their personal values. Because again, we did mention that some people enter relationship with different intentions. Some intentions might not align, but there are also people that enter into relationships with values that don't align. So how can people navigate such relationships?
Honestly, it really depends on what it is because we have to throw in some realistic expectations. A lot of us have this long list of things we expect from someone else that sometimes just are unrealistic. Like, for example, I don't know. And people have their personal preferences and things that they want. I'm just going to use for example now. If someone approaches you and they're not a Christian and you're a Christian and they just said they've been trying to go to church or they've been having Christian friends and they're trying to get closer to God. I feel like you shouldn't just cut them off because they haven't gotten there. Like, see, I mean, it's up to you. Again, it's up to you if you really want to do the work, but what is wrong with giving them the opportunity to take them with you along the journey under Christ? Like, taking them with you. Like, I just feel like, and we've all been sinners. Now, because we're not, doesn't mean we should just cross off everyone else. Every day we're constantly sinning and God is forgiving us. So I
Mhm.
feel like if someone comes in, undervalued, like they're not necessarily Christian and they want to learn that, it's up to you if you want to do the work because it's okay that you don't want to do the work too, but it's okay to bring them in like, hey, this is where I go to, we can study the Bible together, we can go to church together, as long as as long as the other things are aligning, like they want to get married, they want to be serious, as long as those other things are in line, I see no reason why you can't scratch that off and have them be under Christ with you.
Yeah.
That's something I think of, that people are so hell-bent. And then what else can I think of? There's just so many things that we write on our list that don't necessarily come, or that don't necessarily work out. Like, we have to be realistic with some of the things that we're really expecting the other people to come in with, that sometimes we don't even have together ourselves,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know? So it's
Yeah.
just being realistic, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. Now, just off of that, and also based on what we've said, just some minutes ago, um, there's a saying that hurt people hurt people. Okay.
Mm,
Now, what do you think is the how will I put this question now? So, again, sometimes people say that you need to heal in order to heal someone else. Okay.
mhm.
So, how do you think people can show empathy? First of all, how do you think they can heal in order to show empathy to others?
Definitely. A lot of us, I'm going to bring up therapy, for example. We outright just cancel therapy. We think therapy is for, I don't know, someone that's mentally unstable, but it's not true. Therapy is to get your frustrations out, to get your hurt out, talk to someone who's neutral, who definitely doesn't know about you, unbiased, and can really guide you back on track. Therapy is an amazing thing. Talk about what happened in the last relationship, what hurt you, what you're still hurting from, and how you can really heal. And part of healing too is, if you feel you need closure with that person that you just left, it's okay to reach out to them like, hey, this is what happened. I know we didn't necessarily move on to the next level that we were supposed to, but I just wanted to leave this and just say how you felt, how they hurt you. And sometimes all it takes is that person to say, I'm sorry for how I treated you, for hurting you, for you now to heal and start to maneuver yourself back into society and really be kind to people and not feeling like, oh, this person hurt me. Now I'm going to stab the next person. Now I'm going to hurt the next person. I'm going to hurt 10 more people because this man did this to me. And something else I notice, just it kind of falls in line, is I have something I wrote in my book, but I kind of phrase it different. Is people hold themselves to heal.
Mm.
It's
Can you explain that? That's wow. Okay. Yeah, I really want to hear what that means. Yes, please.
and everyone, we're all adults. Nobody's going to tell you don't do it, but we're only going to give you advice like we're doing now. Is it's not the answer to healing either. Like going to multiple people to sleep with them to feel like that's your way of healing, going under people's bed sheets, getting underneath someone else to heal. Because all you're doing is satisfying that temporary hunger. But when you come out of that bed sheet, when you come out of that person's house, and you're in a relationship, now you're going to be dealing with real life situations and conversations that's not necessarily under the sheets, that may trigger you, that you didn't know it was a trigger. You really have to heal and not just feel like you need to satisfy your temporary hunger and that's your way of healing. No, all that will do is letting that person count you, put you in their list of people that they've now slept with, but you didn't really learn something from that. You didn't really heal, you
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
So that's not a way of healing, in my personal opinion. But to each his own. But I can only say what I feel, and we've seen people do that, and they still get into relationships and certain things they didn't know was a trigger from their past relationship because all they've done in between those relationships was sleep with several people. They didn't necessarily do the work.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I definitely agree. Now, just coming back to empathy, what
Mhm.
does empathy mean to you? Let's take a historical approach to it, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Previously,
Mhm.
did you think as though you show empathy to people, and how has that changed? What is an experience that you had that probably shifted your perspective on what empathy is? you know is there a time where you felt like your perception of what empathy is isn't really it, and then has anything happened to shift that perspective to a newer perspective?
Definitely, empathy is understanding or putting yourself in people's shoes for layman terms, or just understanding where people are coming from, putting yourself in their shoes, feeling their emotions, things of that nature. A perfect example would be, sometimes we reach, and I'm using me as an example, sometimes we reach a level and we forget where we came from. We forget the struggles we came from. And now we're on this seat now, and someone approaches us with, think of someone walking up to you with many bags, you're struggling, and you're like, oh, you should have been here at 1 o'clock. What is your excuse? But you were once like them before. You
Mm-hmm.
were there before. So there comes the empathy, like, you start to understand, like you take a seat back, you're like, oh, that was me before. You start to understand what they're going through, and they may have it worse. You don't know. That's why in my book I also use the word grace a lot. We have to give people grace.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know people's stories. Because you're sitting on a table with everyone doesn't mean this person didn't have to escape their abusive husband to come join you for that brunch, for that meeting, and that's why they were 5 minutes late. Or this person had to figure out the night before where they had to sleep because they are homeless and they're trying to keep it together, and that's why they were 10 minutes late. So you have to be empathetic to people, their struggles. You don't know why people do certain things because you don't know their story. And that's why these things are very important. When you see people for a long time, or where however long, you ask, how are you doing? Hope all is well. You don't know what people have been dealing with behind closed doors that they necessarily didn't share with you. And
Mm-hmm.
hope all is well, how are you, goes a long way. It lets that person know that in that moment of them struggling, there's someone that still sort of cares, that's just that cares, that's willing to ask how they're doing, or hope they're doing well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I certainly agree, because usually people tend to forget a lot. People tend to forget again where they are coming from.
Mhm.
They seem to think as though, like, because I'm here, maybe I worked harder. But and sometimes it's not even about the hard work,
Mhm.
really. Sometimes it's favor, like just sometimes things happen that you cannot explain. So sometimes people tend to see others as maybe less than, because in their minds they didn't put in the work that you put in to be there. So you see them as less than. But it's not always about the hard work. It's not always about the skills that you have. Sometimes inexplicable things happen, and you have to extend grace, like you said in your book, to others, because their journeys are different. It's really different from yours, and the more grace, the better. Now I want to
Yes.
talk about mindset a bit.
Mhm.
What is a mindset that you would say that creates opportunities, or how can a mindset you have create opportunities for you?
Honestly, and I know this is like a very touchy subject, but it's just something that I've talked to my friends a lot. We we often talk about, I'm going to use racial issues. We talk about that a lot on social media and everything, and you read the comments, and then people take that. Now I don't, but these are things that I see.
Mhm.
People take that with them, and I'm bringing this up because I've seen people try to project that on me in recent events and recent conversations, where we're always going to celebrate who we are as Black people and things of that nature, but it doesn't mean when there's an opportunity for you to progress that you shouldn't take it because it's a white man that's offering it to you.
Oh.
We have to be we have to be smart, and we can't let certain things cloud our judgment because every situation is different.
Mhm.
Now, you also can't have a mindset of, because one man, and that's one example, for example, a mindset of one man hurting you means all men are dogs, all men are bad, all men just want to sleep with you. It's just one man amongst a million.
Right.
That's something else that I can use an example for mindset. How you think, the words that you soak in from social media, the comments, what people project on you can really play a part on your mindset and what limits your growth. I'm going to use one of my sayings or quotes, or reminders that I use in a book is, do not be foolish to inherit someone else's enemies. You don't know what happened between them, and now you have a business opportunity that's going to take you to the next level, and now you're like, oh, this is my best friend, I'm going to say no because she said no, and now you've missed out on $1 million contracts.
Yeah. Ooh.
And unfortunately, sometimes, sometimes that friend that you were fighting with now showed their true color the next year, and now you don't have that friend and you don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, this is such a great example that you use, because I think that this is one of such things that people encounter almost all the time in their friendship circles, right? I'm inheriting this person's enemy, just beefing this person because they beefed my friend. And again, life happens, and you have no money, you have no friend, you've lost everything, you've lost on both sides. But people often say that you should do the opposite, like you should inherit people, like your friends enemies, because it's a proof of loyalty. What do you have to say to that, though?
And the thing is, it's all about conversations, honestly. When we talk about proving yourself and your loyalty, it's all about conversations. Like, and the thing is, it's your approach too.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's been situations that I'll use, for example, where two people that I knew were fighting, and I had a business opportunity with this person. So I approached my friend of several years, like, hey, I know you don't get along with this person. This is what you shared with me. I didn't have that situation, and I'm not saying I don't believe what you're saying, but this deal means a lot to me.
Right.
I want you to know that I really want to take this deal. It doesn't mean I don't love you, but this deal will get me to the next level. And I hope you understand, as my friend, that this is just business. I'm not
Mhm.
saying I necessarily want to go there and be best friends with this person. I just want to do business with them and leave it there. We're doing business. I'm closing the door on business. I get paid, that person gets paid, and we're moving on.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But it's all about approach. Now, when you do it behind closed doors, it could look shady, it could look funny, but it's all about conversations. Talk to your friend like, hey, I want to take this business opportunity. I know you're going to feel some kind of way, but I wanted to tell you, I don't want to have you blindsided. How do you feel about it? Let's talk about it. Yeah, that's all it really entails, like talking about it.
I certainly agree. It's all about the conversations that, you can have, because a good friendship is built on communication.
Right.
Today you've shared so much, like you've shared so much knowledge, so much insight, so much what I would call nuggets, right? And it's just a testament to how much insight will be in your book or is in your book. And so, thank you for sharing with, the audience. I think that your book is really one that everyone should read, in order to navigate through life, because there are really, really, really good topics that were touched on, and touched on in a very personal way as well, because these are notes that sprung up as a result of your life experiences. And now tell me about the reviews that you've gotten so far, because again, you've written this, people have read it. What are some of the things that people are saying to you about your book?
A lot of people, I feel like they tell me they resonate with some of the quotes, some of the reminders and recent situations they've been in. And you often get people that are like, oh, it sounds like it's personal from what I read. And I'm like, well, yes or no, I don't know, but let's talk about it. But the common thing that I get from a lot of people is they can relate.
Mhm.
They can relate to, they read something that they wish they had read this during when their relationship was going wrong, when that family member was always calling to dump those negative things on them, and they had to be an unassigned therapist by force. You hear all of those things. You hear people like, hey, I always go back to that one reminder in your book, and I read it to myself to remind myself that I am worthy to apply for this job. I am worthy to go to this business meeting. I can sit among the greats. So those are often the feedback I get from people all over, because I do a lot of pop-up shops.
Yeah.
So I get people tell me these things in person. So it's amazing, and it feels good to know that I've done my work, because every week we all need to help each other, regardless if we know each other, we don't know each other. There's someone listening to this that's going to listen to this podcast that would need to hear these words of encouragement, because they've been feeling down over the several months, several weeks, and we have to do our part. And it's great to know that I'm doing my part and people are receiving it well.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think this is just a personal opinion. I think that people can actually use your book as, affirmations. This yeah, like just say, oh, this is a note on failure, for example. You can just say, okay, recite that, try to internalize it. So, those are words you can speak to yourself to help you out of situations. Now, where can people find your book?
So people can find me on Amazon, on Instagram, Biodun Abudu, Biodun Abudu. Just search me on Amazon. You'll see my current book, Notes to Self: A Human's Journey, and you'll see my past ones, which have like more true life stories and in-depth conversations and different topics. You can find me on Instagram. I'm pretty on there. I might not post often, but if you send me that DM, I will respond. And if you go on my website, my email is there. Send me an email. I'm open to having a conversation with people and sharing my experience to help people get through things. And actually, I wanted to offer your listeners something. I have a coupon.
Ooh,
Yes.
yay!
I have
That's
a coupon for all of my books, 30% off. Just enter Pot of Beans podcast into the coupon box and get your 30% off. And I
Oh,
will ship.
that is so exciting. Hey guys, you've heard it. You get 30% off of this book if you use the coupon pot of beans podcast when purchasing a note to self, a human's journey. Okay, so thank you so much, Bjordan. It's been such an honor to have you on this podcast. You've shared so much, and you've given us so much value as well, because you gave us that 30% discount. So yeah, yeah. So I'm really excited about next steps for you. What do you think is the next step for you? Is there another book that we should look out for? Is there another project that you're part of? Tell us about it.
Yes. So my next book, I like to say, is the most daring out of everything I've read. So it's actually something we all know. It's about etiquette. So I'm writing on public etiquette and sex etiquette. But the difference that I'm doing personally is writing it in an uncensored manner. I'm telling you, like I'm telling my friend, like if you're silly, I'm telling you straight as it is. Like, don't be silly. Don't walk in there knowing that you should not be wearing booty shorts to an interview. I'm talking about all of that.
Oh,
I'm talking about if you're having a hookup, which is fine. If you're having a hookup, don't go in there grabbing things that are not yours. Yeah, so I'm talking about it in an uncensored manner, and
okay.
hopefully nobody feels offended, but it is what it is.
Okay, so basically you're calling people out. That's
That's
basically
what
what
I'm calling
you're
people out. And the number one on my list is when people, I love pets, but what annoys me is when people have the leashes on the dog and the dog is on the north side of the sidewalk and they're on the south side of the sidewalk. They want you to do skipping ropes to climb over. Move your dog closer, for Christ's sake. I need to get by.
doing. Well, that is really hilarious, and I'm looking forward to your next book. Like I said, it's been such an honor to have you here. Thank you for sharing all of this with us. Guys, you've heard it. Get Bjordan's book from Amazon. You can follow Bjordan on social media as well. Again, like he said, it's very much excited to respond to your DMs. Okay, so thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been such a pleasure. Guys, this has been an exciting episode. Okay, so there's many more episodes to come. Stay tuned. Okay, I have so much in store for you. Make sure to leave a comment below. If you enjoyed the episode, like it, subscribe to the episode, not the episode, to the podcast on major podcast platforms like Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube as well, because this is going on YouTube. So make sure to subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Okay, so this is it from me to you today. Thank you so much for sticking with me and have a fantastic day. Okay, bye-bye.